Being 7 o'clock, I'll call the Marathon County Board of Supervisors to order, please. Please rise and we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing because as soon as followed that, we will follow that with a moment of reflection. So, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will have the reading of the notice, please.
An educational meeting of the Marathon County Board of Supervisors will be held at the Marathon County Courthouse, Assembly Room, 500 Forest Street in the city of Wausau at 7 p.m. on Thursday, June 20th, 2019. The agenda was duly signed and posted.
Thank you. I would like to request everyone, please put your cell phones on silent or vibrate so that to not interrupt the meeting, and would invite all the supervisors to sign in for a roll call. Supervisor Lang, could you please confirm, please? Thank you, and we will proceed. And I would like to welcome all the visitors that we have this evening. We have a packed house, so not to delay, we have a lot of individuals who have requested to speak, we have 16 people. Obviously, allocating 15 minutes to 16 people would not be appropriate to allow people to have time to say what they prefer to say. So at the chair's discretion, I am going to allocate 3 minutes to each speaker. And so I would remind each speaker that if your comments have been recited by any other individuals, that you can clearly say what you choose, but repetitiveness or just acknowledge that you agree with the previous speaker would be helpful in moving along. We have quite a long agenda, and we have some education presentations that are also. But welcome all the public to and the viewing audience to the meeting. And so we will move on to item number 7, public comment. I have the individuals' names, and as I call your name that you've requested to speak, if you would please come up and address the board from the podium and the speaker podium up here. And we'll start first with Ben Lee. If you would, please state your name and your address and your comments to the board.
Thanks. Ben Lee, address is 1814 Milwaukee Ave, Wausau, Wisconsin. So today I come here and I stand as a straight white male in front of you. And I'm not somebody who can try and convince you that I understand the plight that the people and the folks in our LGBT community have had to endure. I'm not going to pretend, or I'm not going to compare it to somebody who's left-handed like my county supervisor did. So anyone who's here tonight that had to be subjected to that type of behavior, on his behalf, I'm going to apologize for him. And that was Romy Wagner who made those comments. So I come here today because I have family members who have left this community because they feel like they have no place for them. They feel like they have no shared space here to be themselves. I think it's embarrassing that in 2019, we have to crowd into this room and have this conversation again. I feel like I've been having this conversation since I was just a small kid, 10 years old. I think it's embarrassing that our LGBT community was subjected to listen to rhetoric about how simply recognizing them and their presence would have an uptick in AIDS or drug use in our community. For them, again, I apologize that you had to go through that. I think it's embarrassing that I have to explain to a board of county supervisors that 2017 was the deadliest year on record for the LGBT community, and it's expected to rise. I think it's also embarrassing that I have to explain that when I Google the plight of left-handed people, nothing comes up. Nobody was killed last year because they are simply left-handed. It's not a thing that exists. So we just don't get to speak it into the universe like it's real and factual. I think it's an embarrassing and completely excusable action and a spineless response from members of this board that everyone should just be treated the same when we know damn well that that doesn't happen in this community. That's embarrassing. And I think it's embarrassing that I, a citizen, have to remind you, supervisors, that 3.8% of our county community identifies as LGBTQ, and you serve them too. That's 5,000 people.
Attention, fire alarm has been activated. Please walk to the nearest exit and exit the building.
We will have some decorum in this courtroom.
For the record, I'm not
In-
finished, and I'd like that time back.
Excuse me, we have to please evacuate the room. The fire alarm has been evacuated.
Attention, fire alarm has been activated. Please walk to
The board back to order, please. And I would like to make a few comments. First off, people, the general public, you're invited to speak and you can address any issue that you wish. I know people are passionate, but we will do, and I would hope that we can be respectful. You may hear comments that you may agree with. There may hear comments that you may disagree with. But I would hope that all can be respectful of everyone and their opinions and listen. And I expect that of this board. And we will not have any more displays. You will be given your time to address all of those that you agree with and all of those that you disagree with at the point when the board takes up the issue. So I would invite Ben back to speak. You've got 1 minute, but I would please request that you not call out individuals by name. Thank you. And I would also remind everybody, please be respectful, and any profane language will not be tolerated. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thanks for letting me come back. Thanks for sticking it out. But I just really had one more thing to say, and it's along the lines of this whole embarrassment thing, is that this is the second time I've had to come into this room and speak to this board of supervisors in the last year. And I don't know if you remember the first time I was here, and I don't care if you remember the first time I was here, but it's not my job as a citizen to teach you how to lead this county. You have to step up and make the tough choices and lead. Your literal job is to make Marathon County and the surrounding area a preferred place to live, work, visit, and do business. And one of our core values in this county is to actively welcome and value people with different perspectives and experiences. This proclamation is a very small step in that direction. Very small step. So with that, I ask you to just do your job. This is a no-brainer. We're behind our neighboring counties in this. We're completely behind the timeline in this. So please do your job and vote yes for the proclamation. Thank you.
We'll have some decorum in the room, please. We will go to the next speaker. We have Tricia Zonger. You have 3 minutes when you reach the podium, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tricia Zunker. I live at 1404 Golf Club Road. I'd like to thank Mr. Lee for your comments. That fire alarm was certainly interesting. I just witnessed some massive hatred statements out there, and it breaks my heart that this is what the LGBTQ plus community has to deal with on a daily basis. I heard people referencing their religion. Just as a reminder, religion shouldn't be entering into this room. We have something called separation of church and state. And I don't know about your religion, but my religion preaches kindness and compassion. I am here in full and total support of the resolution recognizing June as Pride Month in Marathon County, and I urge you to pass this resolution unanimously. I attended the EEED committee earlier this week and heard a few things of concern I'd like to address. First, I heard an argument for Inclusivity Month as opposed to Pride Month. That is not necessary and totally misses the point here. The majority of the population in this county and in this room is comprised of heterosexual, cisgender individuals. We didn't have to come out to our families. We don't face bullying, harassment, discrimination, isolation, rejection, or violence simply because of who we choose to love or how we identify our gender. We are already included. There is no need for a broader Inclusivity Month. Second, I heard concerns regarding metrics to measure the resolution's effectiveness. That again misses the point. What you are doing with this resolution is sending the message that Marathon County embraces all of its citizens. It sends a message of acceptance, of equality, and of basic human dignity for everyone. It says, we see you and we want you here. I have concerns for the entire LGBTQ plus community, but especially for our youth. At Tuesday's committee meeting, I provided the alarming statistics as they relate to suicide, depression, lack of familial support, and the like for our LGBTQ plus youth. Our youth must know that they are loved and they are wanted here. And our children from these families should know that they are equal to any traditional family. They are not less than. Some of you know that I'm Ho-Chunk. And in my Ho-Chunk belief, we say, Creator doesn't make mistakes. So I want to say that to everybody in this room. Creator does not make mistakes. You are perfect as you are. To the board, you are the leaders in this community. Please demonstrate that leadership and vote for inclusion, equality, and dignity, which means vote yes to this resolution. Please do not send a message of rejection. Our children are watching. Thank you.
Thank you. And with the next, we have Raymond LeBlanc. Raymond LeBlanc, are you here? All right. Just to assist the speakers as they are in their speech, I will give them a 30 seconds, a reminder at 30 seconds that they have 30 seconds remaining on their time.
Very good. All right, I in partial agreement with what that lady just spoke. First, my name is Raymond LeBlanc, and I'm from Marshfield on Central Ave. A part about our Creator does not make mistakes. If we understand the Bible and the Word of God, He does not make mistakes. We are not born that way. It's a learned behavior. I just want to make that point. I'm here today just to address your decision from last Tuesday's meeting regarding the June Pride Month. I'm in total opposition and disagreement with you who are in favor of declaring that we acknowledge Sodomy Pride Month. I refuse to use the word gay, as it is also a perversion of the actual meaning of the word. This body is a reflection of our community standards. And the percentage of those in favor of this death style is even lower in number than that silly argument presented regarding the use of left-handed people. This left hand versus sodomy rights is a nonsensical argument The sodomy issue is a death style choice. They were not born that way. All right, I'm about to get real because it's a learned behavior. They have to recruit because they cannot reproduce. It's in total opposition to the laws of nature. It's a perversion and an unnatural use of the anus, which is designed to excrete human waste materials, and you want to promote it and condone this debauchery? The whole LGBTQ movement is not in need of your approval. As a government entity using our taxpayer dollars to promote the needs, you need to remain neutral on this. Right. It's a matter of laws are already in place to protect their death style choice. It is not necessary to place your stamp of approval on this by declaring the whole month of June in honor of this perversion. Then I just want to quote something from recently in the news by Senator Ted Cruz's father, Raphael. He recently was quoted by the Washington Post, titled "The LGBTQ
30 seconds
Activist
left, Raymond.
to legalize pedophilia." He stated, "I think the next thing they'll push for is to legitimize pedophilia. That'll be your LGBTQP. You think they're going to stop at that until they consume the whole alphabet of everything perverted? And this is what you want to pass on to your grandkids, this kind of lifestyle. Well, I'm opposed to it, and I hope you vote no."
Thank you. Next up, we have Renton Wildman.
My name is Brenton Wildman. I live at 310 North 10th Avenue. And I want you to pay attention when I'm talking about hate speech in this one, because it seems that's what I have to follow right now. Thank you, first of all, for Marathon County for allowing me to speak to recognize June as Pride Month. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brenton Wildman. I am 32 years old, and I own a video production business here in Wausau. I graduated from UW-Milwaukee in 2013 and went on to work in the industry right away in Wisconsin and in multiple countries around the world. After being away from Wausau for the better part of 10 years, my husband and I moved here in 2017 with the hope of starting our own business. People often ask me, "Why did you move back to Wausau?" I always tell them that this is where the work brought me. And they respond, "But why Wausau? Why not live in a bigger city that accepts you and respects your rights? Wausau is not as open to difference. It's not as progressive in social issues. Don't you think you might have a hard time?" Though I shrugged these comments off initially, I became well aware of this reality after I heard about the fate of Wausau's first Pride Parade. One alderman calling it a parade of deviant behaving individuals and urging all residents to stay away. This was scary news, that some politicians here support discrimination and segregation. What would my livelihood look like here as I try to make a place for myself in this community? Would I be able to run a successful business as a gay man, or would I need to hide my identity? Would I want to run my business here? What about the many other individuals in the LGBTQ family? Does that alderman not realize that he also represents them? That is why I'm here speaking tonight. Some people see designating June as Pride Month as not important. Some people see it as even disgusting. Others see it as a step in the right direction to show support for the LGBTQ individuals living here, working here, trying to make a family here. We all want the same thing: a safe place to live and an equal opportunity to succeed in our community. I've seen many people talk about how accepting Wausau is, how we don't have a problem with homophobia here. Let me read a few comments that were posted regarding this meeting we are attending. Just a warning, some of them are a little bit shocking and offensive. There is something mentally wrong with the LGBTQs.
30 seconds, Brenton.
Thank you. I guess I don't need to read any more of those because we heard some of them before I was speaking. What I do want to say is that comments like this one where it says, and this is one of the many reasons I chose not to make my life here. That makes me sad. I want to see this community grow. I want to see it grow economically. And in order to do that, we are going to have to get with the times. We are going to have to keep up with the rest of the nation when it comes to social issues. This city has had a hard time attracting young professionals to live here and to make a life here. That is why I
Brenton,
urge
your
the
time is
community
up.
to please vote yes on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next we have, please. Next we have Lisa Ort Sondergaard.
My name is Lisa Ort Sondergaard. I reside at 220180 Pleasant Drive in Edgar, Wisconsin. I'm here as an ally for the LGBTQ community, and the reason I'm here is twofold. One, because I was raised to be a compassionate human being, because I was raised in an evangelical church that taught me God loves everyone, and I took that to heart as a little girl. I didn't think God said, I only love those who go to this church, even though that's what my church taught me. I didn't think it only meant white people. I didn't think it only meant men, which is also what that church taught me. I took to heart that God loves all of us. Now, it doesn't matter if you believe in Allah, if you believe in God, if you believe in the higher power or the great creator. It's all one. We're all one, because humanity is all about love. That's what we're supposed to be about. And we are self-destructing, and we are not self-destructing because people are making a choice to love someone that some of you think is perverted. That I would love to see the science behind that, except I'm thinking someone who follows Ted Cruz is possibly not very interested in science. The LGBTQ people I know, it is not a choice. Most of them would say, I would give anything if I was heterosexual because my life would be so much easier. I'm also here because I was a school social worker for many years. I have looked in the eyes of 5- and 6-year-old kids who knew at that time they were residing in the wrong body. They knew at 5 or 6 years that they may have been identified as female when they felt male, or identified as male when they felt female. They know at 5 or 6 years. I can't remember when I decided I was heterosexual. I bet most of you can't if you're heterosexual. It is a part of who you are. It is not a choice. No one would make a choice to live against the societal norms. No one would make a choice to face discrimination, bullying, beatings, possible death. We have had 4 transgender women killed in 2019 alone. 4 people, 4 women who were murdered only because they're transgender. That is the only reason they were identified. That is the only
30
reason they were
seconds,
beaten
Lisa.
to death. I like Marathon County. I like living here. I think there's really good people here. I'm hoping that the board is going to vote yes on this proclamation so that you can say to the rest of the community who might not be white, who might not be heterosexual, who might not be Christian, that you're all welcome, because that's what we should be doing here as human beings, and that's what we should be doing as citizens of Marathon County. Thank you.
Thank you. And we move on to Blake Opal, and I am sorry, I apologize. Please.
So my name is Blake Opal-Husky. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. First, I just want to share with you, we are now 50 years since the Stonewall riots happened in New York City. 50 years ago, it was illegal to be gay. Police were coming into the bars, arresting people, just solely for the fact that they wanted to come to a place where they could fully express themselves as they truly are. So I just want to share with you. that with you just a little bit here. And then my prepared statement. For the majority of us in the LGBTQ community, it's still incredibly uncomfortable and even dangerous for us to come and express ourselves in public. So I do want to give props to all those that did come up here and express themselves. In the majority of the states, our community we are protected by the law, but only a portion of our community is protected currently. The state of Wisconsin was the first state in the country to ban discrimination based on sexual orientation for employment, housing, education, credit, and all public accommodations in 1982, and that was under a Republican governor at the time. That's why a resolution like this to declare June as Pride Month not only shows that the county supports our community, but also shows us that we have a voice and we can have a seat at the same table and able to express ourselves as we truly are. And also, I think Brenton touched on attraction and retention of young people to our area. I do know I shared this statistic before, but as far as 18-year-olds to 34-year-olds, this is a study done by the GLAAD organization, 20% of Americans identify as part of the LGBTQ plus community between the ages of 18 and 34. So I just want you to think of that as we are looking at attracting more young talent to the area, that a huge population is part of the LGBTQ plus population. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Christopher Norfleet. Christopher, if you would, please.
How you doing? My name is Chris Norfleet. I reside at 719 Bertha Street in Wausau. There's three things I kind of want to put out here. First and foremost is a proclamation is a document, but it's not living until we act on it. If we don't go and put our feet on the ground and put a curriculum to our behavior and put some actions behind our words, we'll still be here with grown men calling people deviants, as if gay men are the only men who engage in anal sex, first and foremost. Secondly, my brother is gay as hell, and I love him to death. Larry would not live here. He would not want to come live here. This is so hurtful. That this is our social construct in 2019. That beyond all things, these people are doctors, lawyers, law enforcement, paramedics, your teachers. If he saves your life, are you going to then turn against him? I do know exclusion. I do know that feeling. And I swear, if we don't get it right, we will be the reason that this fabric crumbles beneath our feet. We'll be the reason society has no civility. It's not the gay that's harming us, it's the hate. It's the perpetuation of a cycle that we have not taken any good look at for the last 50 years and even beyond then. But something is wrong with us. If one child has to wake up tomorrow and hear these comments and not know that they live in a community with adults that's willing to act beyond these words. Beyond these words. I'm finding out real quick, you need to understand talk is cheap. Anybody can say it. But man, your words are hurtful and hateful.
Thank you. We will move on. The next individual is Patrick Betcher.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I thank the board, and I also want to say I fully support my county board representation. My name is Patrick Bacher, and I am here tonight to speak in favor of the June Pride Month resolution. I have lived in Marathon County for 15 years. I was married in this very building 5 years ago, almost to the day, the very day it became legal to marry in Marathon County. My husband and I have been together for 15 years. I'm here to speak of the importance of diversity and inclusion in Marathon County. I'm present to encourage the board to vote in full support of June Pride Month as it aligns with the board's vision statement. The vision statement of Marathon County. Marathon County government leads by providing high-quality infrastructure and integrated services, and by developing trusting and collaborative relationships among diverse partners. It is proactive in enhancing health and safety, protecting the environment, and providing cultural, recreational, and economic opportunities which make Marathon County and the surrounding area a preferred place to live, work, and do business. It's my understanding the board is also meeting to include diversity in the strategic plan. I think that's fantastic. The LGBTQ community in Marathon County is your community. We are your brothers and sisters, your sons and daughters, and your grandchildren. We are your neighbors, your colleagues, and your friends. We are professionals, teachers, clergy, factory workers, and truck drivers, and business owners. We are Marathon County in every walk of life, and we are taxpayers. We are good for business. This resolution matters. Don't ever feel it is empty or pointless. Silent acceptance doesn't promote inclusivity and diversity. Silence doesn't ensure that all county residents feel safe, healthy, and part of the fabric that make Marathon County great. I'm asking the county board to approve this measure in a spirit of inclusion and equality. I'm asking you to follow your vision statement. I'm asking you to create an accepting and kind community that welcomes, promotes, and
30
includes
seconds, Patrick.
all citizens that make this a great place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. We have next Chris Salem Little.
Hello, my name is Christine Salm Little, 3312 North 11th Street, Wausau. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm just very proud of this board that you're even entertaining this proposal. It's wonderful to see. I moved here back here a few years ago. I was born and raised in Anago, and I want desperately to live in a community that's diverse and inclusive. As an educator and a parent, I've seen our young people, including my own children, flee this community, in part because they recognize that working and raising a family in communities that are inclusive and diverse provides them more opportunities and provides their children with more opportunities. The incidents of racism and bigotry that I've seen play out in the news in this community recently is horrific. We have LGBTQ students being attacked by religious groups. I don't know how many of you remember Jim Nick and his efforts to address the homeless youth problem in Wausau a few years ago. And while his actions were very admirable, we never did address the fact that a significant number of those homeless youth were homeless because their parents kicked them out for being LGBTQ. How many of you knew that? That's a pretty significant thing, I believe. To have homeless children in a community as small as Wausau, we need to think about who we are as a community. And I don't like what I see when I look at Facebook, and don't look at the comments. Well, the comments are, I just can't believe the ignorance. And it's willful ignorance. This is willful ignorance. Culturally incompetent communities do not attract new people or new businesses. They do not. That is your job here, to promote Wausau, to promote business, to promote us as a community. Stevens Point just passed June Pride Month. No, oh yeah, that's a liberal community because it's a college town. Please, spare me. The LGBT community here, these people are the bravest people I know. They have more courage in their little finger than I will ever have in my entire life, to have to get up every morning and walk out the door
30
in a
seconds,
community
Chris.
like this. It's just amazingly brave, and they should never have to justify their existence. For you people in the back, being gay is not a choice any more than the size of your shoes or the color of your eyes. But being a bigot absolutely is. Thank you.
Thank you. No, please. Next, we have Jaheen LeBlanc.
That's my wife. Can I speak for her? You guys got us really outnumbered. I just want to quote something from John Hopkins regarding scientific.
I'm sorry if Jaheen is not here. Our rules. Either she speaks, or we move on. Okay, we have Mary Clues.
Good evening. My name is Mary Clues, and I live at 127 Kent Street here in Wausau. Good to be back. Sorry, I couldn't help it. I never moved away, for those who know me. I, though, sometimes wonder why. I want to, first of all, acknowledge the pain and concern and actually love for community that I feel in the room. I know everybody's showing up because they care, and I want to thank you all, as well as thank the county board for the opportunity to make some public comment. I just ask you to please be aware of the perception of this area to those who don't live here. I know many people that I talk to, and they're like, why are you living there? And the Facebook comments, as other people have mentioned, don't help this perception at all. I have friends who, straight or otherwise, who want all their friends to feel welcome in any place they call home, and they won't consider moving here. If you need an economic reason to do something like this, well, there's one. The other thing, I'll just make it short. Those of you who know me, and I know several of you do, you know that you recognize that I rarely come to a public forum to express my views. Why is this different? Because when I thought about the many ways that this affects our community, I still was intensely aware of the grief I might get as an ally speaking out. And then I thought, what am I doing? If I'm a straight person, an ally, and I feel threatened, it can only be a fraction of the grief that my LGBTQ plus neighbors and friends must face every day. The least I can do is get my buns to the courthouse and make a statement. So thank you so much for that opportunity to address the board, and please vote in favor of this resolution.
Okay, next we have, and thank you. Next we have Ray Sandelsky.
Thank you, Chairman. And county board members. My name is Ray Sandelsky. I live in Marathon County in the township of Knowlton. I identify as male, Caucasian. Really none of your business, but because that's where we're at, I'll tell you that I am heterosexual. I have friends within the LGBT community. I respect them. I don't consider them any less friends. However, I'm here to oppose this resolution for a couple of reasons. The first thing is the awareness of it by the 136,000, just a little bit short of that, members, citizens in this county were not informed. 136,000 members 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 in this county were not informed. 136, I became aware of a little news article last week on a local television station. I asked them some questions about it, said the meetings were this past Tuesday. I attended both those meetings. I had something pre-written here, and I'm going away from it because of the limited time. But why, and in attending those meetings, it was asked by members of the county board, some of the members were there, they spoke up. The process, I'm new. I don't know the workings of county government, unfortunately. I've learned lots, right? But someone submitted this resolution. It went to some committee who then appointed a subcommittee. That was the first meeting at 6:30 last Tuesday. I attended that meeting. One person was missing. I wish I could have talked to all of them. A number of comments were made, including by the chairman of that committee, Mr. Lee, that he had received many negative comments about this issue. I asked him to give me the number. I've still not gotten a number of the negative. He did read one, and that's not saying he's not a busy man, and he couldn't get them to me, but so be it. It then went at 7 o'clock that night in this very building. It went to the committee meeting, okay? I attended that. During that meeting, it was discussed, so on and so forth, no need to go there, but it was suggested by members of the county board and some members of that, I think they call it a standing committee, that it be delayed because they had received many comments from their constituency, the people that you represent in your district, I got it right, it's not an alder, whatever. So I'm thinking, why? And it was voted down. What's the hurry? This is not an emergency situation, board members. It's June 20th. Yesterday was
30 seconds, Ray.
June 19th. Oh my. Okay, I'm way behind it. That reeks of government trying to force something upon the people. It reeks of it. Give them time to do it. I recommend that you, the county board, if you will, move this to referendum, hear from the 135,000 plus people that want to hear about this. I'm hearing these comments. It sounds like a WASA problem, not like a county problem. And I'm not against it. This very document, that resolution, and I'm going to read it to you. One part was read, this part was not, and it says.
Time is up. Thank you. Thank you for respecting the time commitment.
I urge you to move this to a referendum. Let the people be heard. Thank you.
We have Jeff Kacha, excuse me. Sorry about that. Kocha?
Jeff Kocha, 1902 Lily Lane, Wausau, Wisconsin. Very emotional issue. However, governing is not to be emotional. Governing is to support the rights of the individuals, not the rights of groups. Marathon County has an active chamber of commerce, a thriving manufacturing industry, businesses great and small, a vast abundance of natural resources, Granite Peak in the 400 block. We have a lot to offer anyone looking for a great place to become a part of something wonderful. However, under the guise of attracting diversity, some feel that we need to select a controversial topic for our meeting tonight and have our county declare June as Pride Month to celebrate the LGBTQ plus population. We are focusing on a group of individuals that is estimated to be between 2.5% to 4% of the United States population. This percentage includes many outside of the ages of the active workforce. However, veterans make up over 7%, and we don't have a month just dedicated to that. I tried looking for other recurring months that Marathon County has dedicated any topic to, and I could find none. I believe this will be the first if it's approved, unless someone can enlighten me. Some will say that June is Dairy Month. However, every May, we have to vote to make June of that year Dairy Month. My understanding of the referendum as written is this is to be a recurring one indefinitely that does not ever need to come up for renewal again. Same as the mental health awareness, it's also just 2019. Now, we do have some single days that are recurring for some very prominent issues, which is great, but this topic is 30 times the days as that we're going to be celebrating those. In last Tuesday's subcommittee meeting, there was an attempt by one of the supervisors to pigeonhole anyone who wasn't all for the passing of this resolution as being afraid of the LGBTQ plus individuals. My answer to that is easy. I fear no one. I fear no one that is similar to me or anyone that is different from me. In my humble opinion, we are all just ourselves trying to get through today with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The other insinuation that was heard is that because of hatred, this is being held to a higher standard. The attempt to paint anyone who disagrees as evil and hateful should be beneath you. But that is politics in 2019, isn't it? From the president all the way down to our county board, I guess that's what's normal. Show me the higher standard that this is being held to. Have we ever attempted to enact anything of this magnitude before?
30 seconds, Jeff.
Perhaps 1/12 of the year should have a higher level of threshold, but all we've done is ask more questions and request more time to consider and discuss. How is that evil or hateful? I do fear a board of supervisors that feels they have accomplished something by selecting a divisive topic and attempting to force it on a community that may or may not agree to support it, all without giving the community time to digest it and respond, which some may need. I've heard some say this is a good resolution because just talking about it is a step in the right direction. Just so everyone is aware, we're already talking about it. Yes, I am against June being declared Pride Month.
Time, Jeff, please.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for respecting the time. And next, we have Dorothy Giambardo. That's a long name. Oh, there you go.
My name is Dorothy G. Lombardo. I reside at 10320 North 72nd Avenue, and I'm here to also oppose the proposed resolution to designate June as Gay Pride Month. And again, I agree with a couple of previous people. This seems to be rush to do something that certainly could use some more consideration and certainly could use input. I like the referendum idea. I don't know if that's a possibility. I hadn't thought about that. I believe in respecting the rights of all minorities. I have friends who are gay, wonderful people, friends who are straight, wonderful people as well. But I believe that giving any minority group special recognition is at the expense of other groups that do not get that special recognition. What about disabled persons? What about our policemen, our medical professionals? What about married couples making big sacrifices to raise families, foster care providers, adoptive parents? Everybody deserves special recognition. I do not know the pain of the LGBTQ community. I don't have a personal acquaintance there, so I can't speak to that. But just in the interest of equality and fairness, have serious qualms about elevating this particular topic. There was a letter that I read that said to recognize one group over the rest. It doesn't matter what the group is, but that can create divisiveness and not inclusiveness, especially when it's such an emotional topic for so many people on both sides. Moreover, many of us in north central Wisconsin, in my community and my friends, are concerned that traditional beliefs and values and the freedom to live by them may already be coming into conflict with some of the goals and some of the end results that the LGBTQ community is going for. And that may not refer to people that you know and people that are in pain. But when you look at the overarching things that are occurring in our community, those are real concerns. We therefore we support the right of every citizen to experience equality and freedom. And sometimes the people that maybe on the opposite side of the fence feel that their equality and their freedom and their rights are going to come in conflict. And how are those going to be resolved? Will this month designation, will that solve any of those problems? Or will it create more? So I feel personally, and I know many people do, that creating this Gay Pride Month for Marathon County may well create
30 seconds,
divisiveness
Dorothy.
and conflict in balancing conflicting views of freedom and tolerance. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mike Burst.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Mike Brust. I live in town of Stettin, 2409 North 75th Avenue. I'm not much of a speaker. I'm probably more of a writer, so in my case, I sent most of my comments to you via email yesterday or the night before last. Hopefully, most of you had a chance to read it. I guess I'm think about those that have come before me that expressed all of the pain and hurt and things that they've encountered being part of a minority community, and I really empathize with that. It can't be downplayed. It is certainly real. Unfortunately, this proclamation doesn't change that. It doesn't fix that. And as far as comments about hate, I didn't hear any comments about hate. I know that as a Christian, I've learned from a young age that you hate the sin but love the sinner, and I think that everybody is the children of God and deserves to be loved and cared for regardless of their issues. I heard a comment about getting with the times, and also on Tuesday, comments about the fact that we need to do this because Milwaukee and Madison and Stevens Point did this. And even that the state legislature did this, which actually is not quite correct. The state legislature did not vote this unanimously. They didn't even vote on it. There was a proclamation issued, but it wasn't subject to any kind of a vote. But again, my mom used to tell me, if everybody else jumps off the bridge, you're going to do it too. We're not Milwaukee. We're not Madison. This is Marathon County. It's a wonderful place to live. We have values here, maybe different than other places, but this is a great place to live, and people live here because it's not Milwaukee or Madison or even Stevens Point. There were attempts to changes to Inclusivity Month, which makes a whole lot more sense. There were discussions about why it couldn't
30 seconds, Mike.
shouldn't go to the July board meeting so that the public actually had a chance to find out what's going on. Those were turned down on Tuesday. I guess my just comment is we don't need to elevate one group. This proclamation is divisive. It's not inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Lee Webster.
I'm Lee Webster, 155617 Pine Bluff Road, Wausau, Wisconsin. I'm here partially to applaud the members of the county board for really wanting to take a look at the whole question of what you are constitutionally required to do, the things that you swore to when you agreed to become a member of this board, and that includes diversity, and it includes being willing to protect and honor our Constitution and all the rights of every individual that's part of that. And I applaud you that you're willing to take a look at this issue. I am, however, very concerned that in the process of doing that and in creating an emphasis on one particular group, that what we have done and we will do is we will water down the very inclusivity and diversity that we are wanting to create here. Everyone is against bullying. Everyone is against hurtful things that are being done to members of various communities. And we need to enforce those rules and laws that we already have. Words in a proclamation like this are more likely to create more disharmony and will not promote the very things that you want. I would propose that we consider naming a respect month, a time when we as people come together and invite people who may be feeling like they're not being understood or welcomed into the community to have the opportunity to have a voice and come forward and speak clearly about the things that they're very, very concerned about. We need to have a community that welcomes people, but we do not need to create a situation that will create more tension, and we need not to do it in a hurried manner. I'm personally a member of a cultural minority, and I've been very much welcomed into this community. I'm also chronologically gifted, which puts me in another group that is sometimes discriminated against. Folks, let's come together and enforce and do the things that we need to do to enforce the things that we
30
have.
seconds, Lee.
And vote down this resolution as it is stated. Please consider a respect month. Thank you.
All right, that was the full list of the individuals who had registered to speak. I want to thank them on behalf of the board for coming forward and presenting their opinions and presenting their concerns to the board. And we will now proceed to the rest of the meeting. And we will move on to item number 8, education presentation and reports. Item number A, standing committee chairpersons or designees. Any reports by standing committee chairs and or representatives? Seeing none, we will move on to item 8B, transferring Birth to 3 program to Marathon County Special Ed. We have Michael Loy from the North Central Healthcare Center, please.
Everybody hear me okay? All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm here to talk about a policy decision before the board next Tuesday. In the interest of time, I'll try to move expeditiously, while at the same time giving deference to the significance of the issue. Essentially, the policy issue tonight is about whether or not we should transfer birth to 3 services from North Central Healthcare to Marathon County Special Education. In terms of the agenda, I'm just going to cover who Marathon County Special Education is, an overview of the birth to 3 services. We'll go through a quick history on our providing those services. We'll do an overview of the analysis of the transfer and just a couple highlights. So hope to wrap up in about 5 to 7 minutes. Marathon County Special Education, many of you are probably familiar with the agencies, but it's a Children with Disabilities Education Board. Dr. Kelly Capitz is the Special Education Director, and she has been with me throughout this process by my side, but she's taking a well-deserved vacation. Marathon County Special Education is legally separate from Marathon County government, but originally started as part of Marathon County government to provide services to students ages 3 to 21 with disabilities. They received federal guidance from an act called the IDEA Act, which I'll get back to in a little bit, and it provides a logical fit for us to work with them given their mission and ours. And at this point, Marathon County Special Education is just in reference to its geographical locations, and one of the considerations in this transfer was whether or not they could take on the regional approach that we have with Birth to 3 services, and that is in fact okay. Quick overview of the program. Children that are ages birth to 36 are eligible. Eligibility is based on a diagnosis of a disability of 25% or more in each of those 5 categories you see on the slide. When somebody qualifies for the services, they receive a service team consisting of the parent, the service coordinator, and at least 2 professionals knowledgeable about one of those 5 disability areas. We've been operating the multi-county regional approach for Birth to 3 since 2012. And Birth to 3 services have 2 essential components to it, and counties all over the state of Wisconsin, and this is a required mandated services for all counties to provide, have really 2 features to providing these services. The one element is service coordination, which is essentially verifying eligibility and getting connected to services. And then the second part is service delivery, which is the actual delivery of the therapies to the child. In terms of referral, essentially you can self-refer into the program, or you're screened by Early Head Start, or primary care physicians in the community. There's multiple ways to get in. This slide just shows that referral process for kids 0 to 3. Just a quick overview of the background. In Wisconsin, we've had early intervention programs since the 1970s. The state has been very committed to these programs. In the 1980s, the federal government mandated these programs across the United States. And as that happened, Wisconsin essentially harmonized our laws with the federal government laws with the creation of DHS Code 90, which still overviews or has oversight over these programs today. In each county, the county board must designate a public agency to be able to administer these programs. North Central Healthcare is that designated agency. And essentially, the policy question is whether or not we will remain now. We've been having discussions around this transfer for almost a year now, since last September. And the reason why we're having these discussions, as North Central Healthcare has grown and certainly has a lot of programs and services, we want to be very focused on the things that are core to who we are as an organization. North Central Healthcare has over 750 employees, and the Birth to 3 program is a relatively small program with about 13 employees. And as we look to go forward, anytime we have a broad scope of services that deal with different demographics, we have to develop different expertise and competencies. And in this case, very small children, and we don't have any other programs that work with children that young. And so we didn't really feel like we were in the best position to have that expertise going forward. And then the second major implications was looking at all of our programs that are on our campus, and as we go into renovations, whether or not they need to remain in the campus. Either way, in this case, we don't feel that the Birth to 3 program has to remain on our campus. That wouldn't have been true in the past, but now today, the way the service model is, that's true today. Marathon County Special Education, as we looked into who we could partner with, they made sense because they're a public entity. They've got great expertise. Kelly and the team do special education into the schools. They have over 140 staff members. They're in the rural school districts in the Marathon County. And this is really important because as you have vacancies in staff, and especially the clinical staff, with having redundancies, they can be able to fill the gap in the need in the short term. So we think there's better continuity of care, better stability of the program going forward. So essentially, we looked at all this, and we went into this process to say if this makes sense, we're going to do it. If it doesn't make sense across the board, we're not going to do it. At this point, it makes sense all across the board, and we've developed a transfer agreement between the two of us to work through that. As is with anything that we do at North Central Healthcare, getting county board approval, it's quite a process. There's 9 different boards or committees that we're working through to get this policy change done. At this point, it's been through Marathon County Special Education, approved our board at North Central, the Retained County Authority Committee, and it's all clear through Langlade and Lincoln counties, both at the committee and the board level. So we really just sit here at this point with the Marathon County Board. Following the approval in June, hopefully next week, we'll move forward to work with the counties to develop a direct service contract between each county and Marathon County Special Education, and we'll help with doing that going forward. Ultimately, as I alluded to, Marathon County Special Education is willing to assume this delegation. They think it's a natural fit. They will do so in the full scope and way that we currently deliver services. People in the community will not feel the impact at all in terms of the service and the program and its identity. We're simply lifting it up out of North Central Healthcare and putting it under special education. We have already transferred employees to the new location on our campus. There was some vacant space right adjacent to the Marathon County Special Education program. It's in the second or the third floor actually of the Lakeview Professional Building, which is in the southwest corner of our campus, which we do not occupy. And they share that building with other leases. So we transferred them, and as we transfer them over, we will be working with Marathon County Special Education. Our transfer agreement goes for up to 18 months, and we want to do that because we want to get it right. Essentially, the things that need to be met in terms of conditions for the transfer is to get the facilities ready. We're checked there. We need approval and appointment by all the counties, which we're seeking in June. Following county approval, we'll seek DHS approval and Medicaid status. We'll get them up and running with the expanded status they need, and then we'll work with them with the grant transfers. North Central Healthcare throughout the 18 months is wanting to work with them to do the startup and transfer, any initial training, billing and collection services. I think that's the biggest change that we'll have to help them with. We'll help them develop their 2020 budget. We've transferred all the equipment with the program already over into their new location, including technology. And then we'll continue to provide them access to our electronic medical record until such time that they can replace it with their own technology at Marathon County Special Education. And then, of course, help with all the administrative pieces. In terms of personnel, there's 13 individuals here. All 13 individuals have been a part of the process. We've met with them extensively. There really isn't a large impact to them at all in terms of the transfer. Marathon County Special Education is a public employer. Very relatively same benefits and setup, and we worked through all of those issues, and we're sitting pretty well there. In terms of revenues and expenses, and this is the last piece of the presentation, we will remain the fiscal agent until the end of the year, and we will reimburse Marathon County Special Education for all expenses throughout the course of the year because the employees are transferring over effective July 1st, and that's because Marathon County Special Education operates on a July 1 budget year, and their health plan does as well. And so we want to get them over there and started right from the beginning of their year. At the beginning of the year, we'll ask the county boards in all 3 counties to transfer the tax levy that you're giving to North Central Healthcare for this purpose directly to Marathon County Special Education, and they'll become the grant administrator and fiscal agent at that point. 2 important financial things that to keep in mind. One is that both it's a requirement of the Marathon County Special Education Board, and really it should be a requirement of the county boards, is to segregate the funds between what's happening for birth to 3 and their regular special education programs. That's going to be guaranteed. And the second component is these programs have what's called a maintenance of effort, which is essentially the state of Wisconsin dictates to every county the amount of tax levy you have to give to this program. That's not discretionary. The state adjusts it from time to time based on service volumes and needs across the state. So you can see that Marathon County contributes just over $600,000 a year to this program. In terms of revenues, the gist of this slide is that in terms of program fiscal health, it's in a good position and doesn't saddle Marathon County Special Education with an inability to cover cost and be able to administer and support the program. So at the end of the day, that should be stable. So that was real quick, but are there any questions? Is it proper to do that?
Sure. Is there any questions of the board on Supervisor Schaefer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. $1,700,000 roughly was the budget. How many children are birth to 3 are involved in that?
For Marathon County, it's over 100. And so when somebody's enrolled, our staff go into the homes and work with the families maybe once or twice a week, but certainly for a long period of time.
Follow up, that's just Marathon County families for that, or the money, that $1,700,000?
No, that's the total budget.
For all 3 counties? So total between the 3 counties, what, 100, 180?
I think push about, 180.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Zhang.
Wow, thank you, man. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael, would you be able to send us this the PowerPoint that you had up there so we can review for additional information as well, please? Thank you.
It should be already included in your packet.
Is it? Oh.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I apologize. It was not.
Next week.
We'll have it in for the Tuesday's meeting. It'll be in the packet for tomorrow or on Tuesday. Supervisor Boots.
How does yell real loud?
Yeah, we got. Otherwise, the video does not pick it up.
Michael discussed this with us at length at the Health and Human Services Board. It's a good move for Marathon County, and the RCA, like he said, the RCA is approving of it too. So just wanted to make that known.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions by the board members on the potential? The ask of the board will be to policy question, should we continue to explore the transfer of the Birth to 3 program to the Marathon County Special Education Division? Supervisor Rosenberg.
Sorry, I got a late click on my button. I just want to thank you for presenting this, and I want to point out that this is one of those things where you're kind of innovating and finding efficiencies, and I know that we can expect more of this kind of collaboration with these other county departments. So just thanks for presenting this, and I think it's kind of inspiration of what's to come. So thank you.
This is really about doing what's best for the community.
Okay, any other questions by the board members? Okay, Michael, thank you. The next agenda item has been pulled and will reschedule for next Tuesday out of respect for time. And we'll move on to item number 9, appointments. Item 9A, Local Emergency Planning Committee.
To appoint Robert Paradowski from Kraft Heinz to the Local Emergency Planning for an indefinite term, replacing Brian Liu.
Any questions? Any questions? Okay, item 9B, Board of Adjustment.
To reappoint the following individuals, Richard Lawson and Roger Zimmerman, to expire June 30th, 2022.
Any questions on those two appointments? Okay, Solid Waste Management Board.
To appoint and to reappoint to individuals to the Solid Waste Management Board, to appoint, and Supervisor Jim Bovey's name was just brought forward for the appointment, and reappointment is Thomas Seubert, Ann Maynard Tremelling, and Myron Pahosky.
Any questions on those appointments? Okay, moving on to review and discussion Tuesday's meeting agenda items. Under ordinances, I will first make an announcement that the chair has requested item number 2C, the Town of Eldron rezone, Tammy L. Miller, parenthesis, Kudrowski, ordinance 11-19 has been pulled and is referred back to committee for additional work. And so we will move on to ordinances. Item 10A1, Health and Human Services Committee. Item A, amending Section 2.05, Parent 1, Parent D, General Code of Ordinances to provide for the Board of Health membership to track with statutory languages. Ordinance 0-8-19. Any questions? Okay, next, item 10A2, Environmental Resources Committee. Item number 2A, Town of Eau Plaine rezone, Nathan Winsenson of Riverview Land Surveying for June A. Landwehr Irrevocable Trust. Ordinance 9-19. Any discussion? 9-2B, Town of Eldron rezone, Matthew and Robin Krall on behalf of Ruth Bassett. Ordinance 10-19. Okay, moving on to resolutions. Item number 10B1, Human Resources, Finance, and Property Committee. Item A, approve 2019 budget transfers from Marathon County Department of Appropriations. Resolution 31-19. Any questions? Supervisor Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the fourth transfer, CPZ, TBD, Norbert Gruden, $534,447.
Correct.
For a manure holding pit, I'm assuming?
Correct. That's a trim grant that is pass-through money from the state that is targeted management practices that are passed through the state for nutrient management and manure storage facility.
Is there a cap on what someone can apply for? And does somebody actually go out and do that study? Or does a guy just come in and say, well, I want to
No,
store
there's
some
a
manure?
design requirement, there's state approval that it has to all comply with based on herd size, based on number of animals and animal units on the facility.
So is there a cap on how much you can apply for?
You can apply for, I don't believe that there's a cap on what you can apply for, but there's a cap on the amount of dollars allocated to the TRIM grant program. And so it is still limited by the dollars that are available.
So it's a total pot of money okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on budget transfers? Okay. Item 10B. 2, Diversity Affairs Commission, Extension Education Economic Development Committee. A, declaring June as Pride Month for Marathon County, Resolution 33-19. Any questions and or discussion? Supervisor Miller, we will use the request to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry.
we'll bring it up on, okay. First, we have Supervisor Rosenberg.
Thank you. And I want to thank the public for coming out to talk about this issue. Civic engagement is something that's close to my heart, so I'm glad that we could have something that we could all talk about together. I am a little disappointed in some of the conversation. It feels like it's been warped and manufactured into a controversy. I don't see that it's controversial to recognize the LGBTQ plus community. And we're recognizing that it's been marginalized for decades and for centuries. And, you know, it's still happening today. Many of my friends in the LGBTQ community don't want to talk publicly and open themselves up to the commentary, particularly on social media. So I'm speaking for them. One of my friends told me about a transgender woman who lost her job when her boss found out she was transitioning. I've heard story after story from people I know who live here in central Wisconsin who've endured name-calling, bullying, prejudice, and worse. In fact, just this morning, I got a little taste of this. A Marathon County resident called me up and told me that I'm going to hell because of my support for this resolution. If that did anything, it proved to me that we're not as far along as we thought we were, that we need to recognize that this is a journey for all of us. We're stronger because of our diversity, and we need to acknowledge that some people in our community are still singled out because of who they are. Being who you are should be a given and not a privilege. You have the resolution in front of you. It talks about the economic importance of supporting marginalized communities. One of the articles that parsed the UCL data that's in that resolution said that not being accepting and welcoming of the LGBTQ community was basically like bagging up millions of dollars, taking it into a field and lighting it on fire. That's a terrible economic impact, and it's a worse social impact. And I guess I just also want to say that many of you were here when we made the hard decision to vote on the vehicle registration fee. You heard from residents who didn't want to pay the extra fee, but you still voted in favor of it because it was the right thing to do for Marathon County's future. Well, here we are again with an opportunity for you to stand up for the future of Marathon County, to take a step by acknowledging that not everyone has the same life experiences and that some have had it harder because of prejudice. And I hope I can count on you to stand with me and our diverse community.
Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To be blunt, this is the craziest thing that I've ever been involved in since I've been 12 years on this board. Marathon County has no right to take the feelings of the individuals of this county and say that they have a better idea than they do. I'm not particularly against the topic, but I'm against the taking away of the choice of the people of the county. I agree with Mr. Sandelsky. If this is so important, then maybe the people of the county ought to weigh in on this on a referendum, at least an advisory. So I'm going to talk to Corp Council before the next meeting and see if that's even possible, or at least to have it discussing. Because I think people are going to force something on us if we take action that takes away their rights and their feelings. Thank you.
Supervisor Leahy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to state, as a member of the committee that oversaw this resolution at Tuesday's meeting, I was so happy to vote yes to move it to the full board. Someone else stated that they were better communicators via the written word, and so am I. I'm going to read you part of an email that I responded to a constituent with last night, who told me that this was all a bunch of BS, and June was summer and for having fun, and we shouldn't think of calendar months of anything but calendar months. As a governmental body, we recognize lots of people, events, and causes. Resolutions are often used to spread awareness. For example, Marathon County designated May as Mental Health Awareness Month and recognized June 15th as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. We sent a resolution to the state capitol this past winter urging legislators to take action on the poor road conditions and making them aware of the hardships Marathon County taxpayers face due to their inaction. As a board, we've passed over a dozen such resolutions this session, usually unanimously, to help educate, advocate, and acknowledge various topics of importance in the county. I know it's easy to see resolutions as unimportant. What do they really do, people ask. The way I see it, they declare the values of a governmental body, set an example for other community partners to follow, and can start the path to policy. Declaring June as Pride Month in Marathon County would root our commitment to LGBT LGBTQ plus inclusion in the public record, demonstrate our internal work and progress for everyone to see, and inform and guide future policy. Passing resolutions are not all we do. It's a small yet important part of our job, a way to highlight things that our community may not otherwise hear or learn about. Also, for taxpayers concerned about what their tax dollars are doing, passing this resolution is completely free, which is a great thing. As a county that's often strapped for cash, this could actually have a big impact for really little work on our part. Someone else stated this is a no-brainer, and I completely agree. I would like to point out that last month we did pass 2 other resolutions, declarations that came through the Diversity Committee with none of this. There was no public debate. There were a few public comments to speak in favor of the resolution that had a lot of impact, but there were no divisive comments. And it passed unanimously to recognize Indigenous peoples and Hmong veterans. So I think the discussion that we're having now is important, and it's very telling that we're having it about this resolution when others have passed unanimously with very similar tones and purposes. I would urge my colleagues to vote yes.
Supervisor Nutting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, this is overall a very well-written resolution, and I'm reading that there are aspects of the resolution that are historical and are needing to be brought to the attention of us all the time. We do so much at this present time to recognize these rights that all of our citizens have. Where there is a minor problem, I think, in this resolution is in that one of the whereases is we recognize and embrace the responsibility for Marathon County to set a positive example for the community in ensuring that our employment practices and work environments are respectful of all people, regardless of age, gender identity, race, color, religion, marital status, national origin, sexual orientation, or physical challenges. This is an excellent statement. But then on the last page of the resolution in the be it further resolved, the resolution seems to step away from this inclusiveness and go to an exclusive recommendation. And I would sense that it would be best if we took that statement that I just read before and we would copy and paste it into this last be it further resolved, that the Board of Supervisors of Marathon County Administrator is directed to evaluate the Marathon County government's employment practices, policies, and facilities, work environments to ensure that they meet the county's expectation of being and open and inclusive to people who identify themselves, and I'll copy and paste here, regardless of age, gender identity, race, color, religion, marital status, national origin, sexual orientation, or physical challenges. This resolution then becomes, from beginning to end, as I believe that our committee members intended it to be inclusive to all 136,000 plus residents of this county. In it, at that aspect of the exclusion is where many people have difficulty. I appreciate the comments that were made by Mr. Webster earlier also, because many individuals within our county recognize the word pride as being a name that is identified with the sorry for my stumbling on the LGBTQ plus group. Whereas if we named this resolution Respect Month or something similar, that this would cover all individuals. Everybody needs respect, and it should be the policies of this county to do so, and it is. I'm sure our administrator has scoured our operating books and policies to make sure that we are an inclusive hiring organization and work environment here. What more can he do but further analyze this on an ongoing basis? I would ask that we would have somebody on Tuesday make a friendly amendment to this great policy, this great resolution, so that it become more inclusive all the way through from beginning to end. With regrets, will be away this Tuesday because celebrating my wife's and my anniversary. We're traveling, and this has been planned for some time, so I unfortunately will not be able to make this amendment, but I would ask that someone might consider this as a friendly amendment, not to weaken this resolution, but to strengthen it for all people of this county. Thank you.
Supervisor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What on earth do you actually have to be proud of? You're disgusting and evil. If you LGBTs don't want to be treated differently, then stop acting like you're special. Your sexual orientation is not an achievement, and you have accomplished nothing just because you're attracted to the same sex. What pride is there in having a genetic brain disorder? We should be trying to prevent this, not celebrate it. You're absolutely sick. We should never celebrate some sick sexual orientation. Guys being with other guys are in the same category as child molesters. You gays are a disgrace. Next thing you know, we'll have those sicko perverted parades in our street. There's something mentally wrong with the LGBTQs. June is Dairy Month, not Fairy Month. What did they do to deserve this? Gays only care about their own well-being and not the youth of America. A Gay Pride Month will have them rallying to recruit people or persuade them to become gay. Might as well give a whole month to drug users and sex offenders too. So these are comments I pulled just from about 10 minutes commenting or scrolling in the comment section of online news stories about this meeting. These are comments that came from people in our city. They came from people in our county. Now I want everyone here to think about who you are. Think about the things that define you at the core of your being, and ask yourself if you've ever truly experienced comments like this directed at you because of who you are. Ask yourself if you would enjoy living in a community who speaks about you and to you like this. And ask yourself, what would you do if this was aimed at someone you loved? What if it was aimed at your child? I want to touch on that theme today because it seems to come back to our kids, something that a lot of people have talked about. In 2015, Marathon County School Districts conducted a youth risk behavior survey. The survey was conducted again in 2017. So in 2015, 8.5% of kids in Marathon County high schools described themselves as gay, lesbian, bisexual, or unsure and questioning. That number went up to 10.8% in 2017. Now let's look a little bit at some of the other results. The percentage of students who purposely hurt themselves, including attempted suicide, 1 or more times during the 12 months before the survey, they were 3 times more likely to have done so if they identified as LGBTQ. Of the percentage of students who felt sad or hopeless almost every day for 2 or more weeks in a row, so much that they stopped doing the usual activities. During the 12 months before the survey, LGBTQ students were 2.5 times more likely than their heterosexual peers. There was a significantly lower percentage of students reported having at least one teacher or other adult in their lives that they can talk to if they had a problem. They were 2 times more likely to feel like they don't belong at school, and they were 2 times more likely to be bullied in the last 12 months. Among LGBTQ students, they were 3 times more likely to use marijuana and 2 times more likely to use cigarettes. These are not national statistics. These aren't even statewide statistics. These are kids in Marathon County. These are our kids. And those comments that I just read was just a small sampling of things that were on the internet that any of those kids could go and read. And they are looking to us to help them, just like other LGBTQ community members are looking to help them. I'm sorry that I'm getting emotional, but I'm a parent, and this is something that means a lot to me because I would never, ever want my child to have to go through this. And even though she wouldn't get it from me, it clearly is something in this community that she would get. And we need to put aside everything and realize that human rights are not an exhaustible resource. We can care about the LGBTQ community, and we can still care about veterans. We can still care about police officers. We can care about races. It's not an all or nothing. It's not this group gets it, this group doesn't get it. This is a very simple thing that we could do that would make a big difference in a lot of people's lives. And it's not our duty to say if this would matter to them or not. They're telling us that this would matter. And it's our job to do that and to help them. So I really hope that we support this and vote yes. Thank you.
Supervisor Krause. Nope, excuse me. Vice Chair McEwen, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone that came this evening for their comments and concerns regarding this matter. I think it illustrates democracy at its best. As a Marathon County Supervisor, I think we need to listen to all of our constituents, no matter what the issue is that we are asked to vote on. We are a board of committees and commissions, and I want to thank the Diversity Affairs Commission and the EED Committee for their efforts to bring this resolution to our attention so we could have this discussion. I've read the resolution many times, and I agree with over 80% of the resolution as it's written. I have received many emails and phone calls from constituents, as I'm sure many of the other supervisors have. Many of the phone calls were very emotional, and all were opposed of this resolution that I received by email and phone calls. There were many reasons why people oppose this resolution, and I jotted down a list of them while speaking to these, whether it was email or by phone call. Number one was religion reasons. Number two, moral. Number three, not treating everyone equal. Number four, we should not be wasting our time on this issue with all the other issues that we have in Marathon County. And number five, they feel that this will be more divisive towards the LGBT community than it will be positive. My first question to every one of these individuals that I spoke with on the phone, I asked them if they did not believe that everybody, regardless of age, gender identity, race, color, religion, marital status, national origin, sexual orientation, or physical challenges should be treated equally and not be discriminated against. They all said yes, but there was a but. The but was that they felt that this resolution was emphasizing the importance of only one minority and that they feel we were minimizing the challenges of everyone else. I assured them that this was not the intent of this resolution from the two committees that drafted this. I feel that equality for all is an American goal that we should all try to install in everyone. As a Christian person, I believe that God created everyone equal, and that's how we should be treating everyone equally. As far as the Marathon County employment policy under Chapter 10, I applaud administration in their efforts to make sure everyone is treated equally and with respect and no one is discriminated against. We were one of the first counties to pass an anti-bullying policy. I feel that there's a lot of common ground in this resolution, but I feel that we need to make some revisions to this resolution so we can pass it for all. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Krause.
Thank you, Chair. Not too much has been said about people on our board having personal experiences with the lesbian, bisexual, all of those letters going on. I would like to emphasize the fact that there is a sexual change going on in our society. There was a time when men didn't talk about their boyfriends, and women didn't talk about their girlfriends. Everyone was in the closet. If you came out, you were ostracized, fired, beaten, killed, also sent to psychiatrists because you were mentally ill and given lots of drugs to take. And now there's a lot of fuss about the fact that people, whether they're become gay or they're born that way, that's, as far as I know, there's no gene indicating that. There may be a gene indicating that someone is not heterosexual. But we need to recognize that our society has allowed women birth control, which has led to an opening of our society towards women and giving birth and enjoying sex. And they're not sluts for doing so. And I think this should be afforded to all people, regardless of their sexual orientation. That we shouldn't say some people can't enjoy sex because of who they're having sex with. And I think this is a milestone of recognition. I think just because we recognize them doesn't mean we're negating recognizing anyone else. We recognize veterans. I'm not a veteran. Do I feel bad about it? No. And I don't think other people should feel bad because they're not being recognized because they're not gay or queer or transvestite or whatever other sexuality they have. I think our society can allow for diversity and differences. We're doing it with Blacks. We're doing it with the Hispanics. We're doing it with the elderly. We're doing it with children. We should be able to do it across the board, across the society, with our sexualities. Thank you.
Supervisor Robinson.
The road we've traveled has brought us here tonight. Different views and different perspectives. But if you look back at history, there has been a history of discrimination, of abuse, of violence rendered against segments of this society. 50 years ago this month, which is one of the reasons why this resolution is before us, there was a riot in Stonewall, New York, because people were tired of being arrested because they chose to go to a private establishment and be themselves. In 1982, I had the privilege of serving in the state legislature when we eliminated discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and other activities. We were told at that time that we were going to hell, that there were diseases that were causing these people to be that way. Also in the 1980s, we decriminalized sexual activities between consenting adults, and we were told that we were going to hell. In the 1980s, we also adopted in Wisconsin nationally recognized legislation dealing with the HIV or AIDS epidemic that sought to balance the rights of individuals with the rights of society. And when we were in that debate, there were people that were telling us if we deal with protecting the rights of individuals who are gay, who want to access health care and want those records protected, that we would be going to hell. We haven't. That road has led us to here today. This resolution is consistent with what the State Assembly took action on earlier this week with Assembly Joint Resolution 47 that passed recognizing June as Pride Month in the state of Wisconsin. We're not going to hell as a state. This resolution is important. This resolution puts forth a position that we want to, if you read the resolution, we're going to proclaim it as Pride Month in Marathon County when all county residents are invited to reflect on ways that we can live and work together with a commitment to mutual respect and understanding. Respect, Respect Month, Pride Month? Aren't we getting to the same place? Aren't we honoring people who have been discriminated against in spite of laws saying that we're not going to discriminate against them? We need to recognize that the path traveled to today, that road has been rough. But if we as a county are going to try to become the safest, healthiest, and most prosperous county, we have to be inclusionary and invite all to participate. This resolution gets us on that road and helps move us forward.
Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've heard a lot of emotional comments on both sides and a lot of personal stories and a lot of personally painful stories today. I have those stories too. I'm going to choose to keep those private. But I do have a personal reason why this is important. But to boil it down from a county board supervisor perspective, from my perspective, I'm not here to represent my family, my friends. I'm here to represent the citizens of Marathon County. And some folks alerted, or supervisors alluded to the contacts they received from their constituents. And all but one of the contacts I received were affirmative, were in support of the resolution. I had one email which was solicited by another county board supervisor who suggested that they contact me. All the other direct contacts I had from my constituents in my district were in support of this. And to boil it down to brass tacks, and I think that's kind of where we're at. I mean, we've heard a lot, and we understand the deep personal impact this has on people. But from a county board supervisor perspective, you boil this down to where we're at now, because there's no going back. There's no tweaking around the edges and changing it and coming out with a positive result. That's not going to happen. Where we are right now is we have a well-crafted resolution which is very clear in its intent and recognizes decades and decades, perhaps centuries of wrongs that have been done against people, and says you are welcome here. There is nothing wrong with that message. Welcoming someone, caring about someone, loving someone, respecting someone, all of those things, they're not pies. If they get a piece, you don't have less. There's enough for everybody. There really is. So I would urge everyone to support this, because if we don't, this is my great fear when I say boil it down to brass tacks, if we do not pass this resolution in its presented form, you may as well draw a line around Marathon County and say, if you are from the LGBTQ plus community, you are not welcome. Regardless of the flowery words and the religious reasons for your opposition to this, that's the message that's going to be sent. That's what's going to be heard. And it will impact us. And that does not comport with being the healthiest, the safest, the most prosperous county in the state of Wisconsin. In fact, it will do just the opposite. And it's heartbreaking to hear people talk about their loved ones having to leave the area because they don't feel safe. They don't feel like they are welcome here. And that is, like I said, heartbreaking. So I would urge all of my fellow supervisors to support the resolution as it is written. To not do so, I feel could have tremendously negative effects on this county, not just on the county economically, but on the spirit of this county and on the heart of it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Stark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I sat in on the meetings of the committees, even though I was not a member or a voting member. I did speak up and suggest at the time that the contacts that I received all were, where did this come from? I didn't know anything about this. It was all very, very short notice, and it was batted about very, very briefly about maybe pushing this till July so that our constituents and others could get better information about it. And I didn't have any voting rights in that committee, but it was voted down. I just throw that out as a precursor. All right, so then, even then, there was different forms of this document. And I have no disagreement with the spirit or intent of the document, but I will, as the chair of finance, point out one serious potential issue. And it's because I lived it. If you get to the last paragraph where it says we direct the county board administrator to, or the county administrator to evaluate Marathon County government's employment policies, practices, and facilities and work environments to assure that they meet the county's expectations of being open, inclusive, blah, 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 blah. 10 years ago, I had responsibility for an office in San Diego. San Diego had a similar resolution. They moved forward with even more language, and it was the beginning of a next step, which we very well could have. And I'm not saying we can't do it. I'm just pointing out there's this old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And while it's been said this isn't going to cost anybody anything, what happened in that, the next step that came down the pike was, all right, to protect these people in this segment of our society, we need gender-neutral bathrooms. And it was required for all public buildings and all businesses that had people that identified in this segment of our population that we had to have gender-neutral bathrooms. And the company that I worked for at that time had 3 floors in a building in downtown San Diego. And 10 years ago, it cost us $100,000 to outfit the 3 floors with gender-neutral bathrooms because they couldn't be right next to the others because somebody might see somebody coming in. Or there were all kinds of things that went around the location, et cetera. So the only reason I'm pointing this out is if that comes down the pike here and we have to put gender-neutral bathrooms in all public buildings, we own a lot of buildings. I can see that easily costing us hundreds of thousands. If that was 10 years ago, it was 100,000. This could be 750 or $1 million over the course of accommodating that requirement if that becomes the next thing down the pike. And I'm not saying we can't do it, but we had to get money, just about borrow money, to put an elevator in the courthouse here because we didn't have enough money to upgrade. I'm just saying, I'm not saying don't do it, but there's no such thing as a free lunch. We need to, as we look forward, this may be a budget item that we have to look forward to down the road because I see that as not an imagined, but a real potential. And I'm just saying, don't walk into this thing saying it's free because it very well may not be. And as the chair of finance, I feel obligated to point that out to the board.
Supervisor Lowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm on the EEED committee, and I just wanted to reiterate what I said in committee to the full board. In our committee, we talk about economics and education. I mean, it's in the name of our committee. I really dislike talking about people in dollar signs, but because I really think that dehumanizes people. But we talk about economics, and we talk about how it's hard to attract young people to the county. I sat through a program that was, that we were invited to with the Wausau Chamber of Commerce, and the one thing they said to us was that we needed to attract young people to this area, or else we are going to be in very big trouble. Just passing this resolution maybe won't do that, but it is certainly the first step. Economically, this is a good idea to pass the resolution. We also talk about our local university here in Marathon County. And one of the things is we have students that aren't coming to our university. We're always worried about, oh my God, is the university going to close? Is it going to be okay? We have the lowest tuition
we have a very low tuition cost here at the university and at the tech. And so to not pass this resolution, you know, like young people, they aren't going to stay here. They're going to go to Madison. They're going to go to Milwaukee. They're not going to stay. We need young people to stay here. One thing that I also asked at our committee meeting is, what is the fear? What is the fear if we pass this resolution? And no one could really give me an answer. So that's a question that I'm asking, and maybe, you know, my fellow colleagues here can ponder that before our Tuesday vote. And one thing that I wanted to say also is, it really offends me as a person that our LGBTQ community and people have been reduced to their genitals and their sexual orientation and gender-neutral bathrooms. That, to me, is very offensive. It's dehumanizing, it's denigrating, and you know, I really hope that we all treat our fellow human beings as human beings and not just as, you know, their body parts. So thank you.
Supervisor Zhang.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To all those individuals who came here, whether you disagree or agree with the resolution, I just want to say thank you for all your opinion, your feedback, and all your stories. To all the county board supervisors, I applaud and thank each and every single one of you for even considering this resolution. One of the best things about being an American is being able to discuss and voice your opinion, you know, regardless whether you agree or support the idea that's happening, that's being discussed on the table. Now, this resolution before you is not asking each and every single one of you to put your morals or your values aside, but it's actually and saying whether you believe. It's not asking you to say whether you believe or think that whether being gay or lesbian is all right. It's asking you to make a declaration that no matter who you are, as long as you are a contributing member to Marathon County, towards making Marathon County the safest, most prosperous, and healthiest county of all, you are welcome here in Marathon County. That is the message that we are, the Diversity Affairs Commission, that was the message we were hoping to spread from this resolution. The Diversity Affairs Commission was tasked and chartered with the task of coming up with recommendations to encourage this board, to encourage Marathon County to become a welcoming and inclusive community for not just those individuals of different color skins, but for all those individuals, including the LGBTQ community. Now, as Vice Chair McEwen mentioned earlier, and I agree with him, a lot of the concerns that were brought up were that the community was not informed. Those that oppose brought up religious rights, moral rights. Mentioned that if we were to do this resolution, we would be elevating a group rather than supporting elevating one specific group and de-escalating other individuals or groups, minority groups. In addition, others mentioned that we have other issues that are more important to deal with, and individuals who will come up and said that this would cause a division and divisive towards the LGBTQ community. I want to remind this board that there were also other arguments mentioning that we should not be giving a month to the LGBTQ community. But I also want to remind this board that this same board, the Marathon County Board, back in 2004, under Chairman Lilaghenhad, they passed a resolution recognizing Hmong History Month for a whole entire month in the month of April. Because of that effort, it allowed the Hmong community to be able to educate the community about the importance of the Hmong community, educate them about who the Hmong people really were. And now we are a leading example, not just in Wisconsin, but all across the country. You know, in addition, this is just following the national movement and other initiatives throughout the entire country of trying to recognize a group that has been marginalized. Other individuals mentioned that June month is Dairy Month. While there are other months as well that shares month as well. During the same during April, it's also Sexual Awareness Month, Sexual Assault Month as well, along with Hmong Heritage Month, Asian Pacific Month, and many others as well. Again, this resolution is not asking this community, the board members to say whether it's right or wrong, but it's whether LGBTQ is right or wrong, but rather it's saying that no matter who you are, as long as you are a contributing member to Marathon County, towards making Marathon County the most safest, prosperous, and healthiest community, you will be welcome in Marathon County here. That was the intention of the resolution. And I hope that each and every single one of you think that over and vote in support of this resolution on Tuesday.
Supervisor Zereni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've really had some in-depth conversation tonight, and I really appreciate that we've had an opportunity to talk about this issue and talk about it from both sides. Like others, I've had a number of phone calls and emails over the past couple of days. It's been a rush. I mean, the phone is, people don't even take time to send an email. They call. And it's been overwhelming, 10-1, not in favor of this. So I ask myself two questions, why and what? Why are we entering into something that's divisive, that we can see it here, and I can tell you if this is passed, it's divisive within the community, and it probably will not accomplish the goals. And I ask myself, why aren't we doing what some people suggested tonight? Katie brought this up, our Supervisor Rosenberg, about the community engagement, the community conversation. Maybe this is something that we need to take a step back. The Life Report goes through a lot of steps in its process. When they come across deficiencies and the things they want to work on, they talk about how are we going to get there. And passing this resolution is not going to fix anything. And we need probably to take a step back and think about what we need to do to make this a better community, to make it a more inclusive area. So that's when I'm at the point of, I would recommend voting this no, but not tabling the concept. The concept's good, but how can we come at it in a much more objective analysis with some action steps and not just some words on a resolution that get lost? Because emotionally, the word pride in the resolution, and we talked about pride and respect, but it has a connotation that's very divisive in this community, and we don't need divisiveness, we need inclusiveness. So what can we do to take steps and analyze this and put programs and processes in place that make this an inclusive community? Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Any additional discussion? Okay. Well, that brings us to the last item on the policy question that you'll be asked, and we had a presentation on earlier, and we'll be asked to vote on. Should NCHC North Central Healthcare work with its county partners to facilitate the transfer of the Birth to 3 program from North Central Healthcare to Marathon County Special Education? Any questions on that? Okay. We're down to announcements and/or requests. I did have one announcement, and that announcement was passed on by Joan Toyer, who was going to have the presentation on the role of the Board of Health, and that is that she requests that you please bring your apples back for Tuesday for the presentation, or you will be graded and docked from pay for not having your apples back. So we have Supervisor Bovee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the laugh. Arnie Schley couldn't be here tonight, so he asked me to remind you all that Jamie Polly is continuing her parks tour on June 28th, and they will be checking out some of the parks on the western end of the county. She would like you to email her and attend if you can. And she will also be giving out free lunches. So please take advantage of this. It'll be well worth your while.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple events coming up in the next week or so that may be of interest to the board. So on June 26th from 5:30 to 7 o'clock at the Great Northern Distillery in Plover, it will be the Central Wisconsin Pride Month Happy Hour. And then also on June 29th from noon to 4 p.m., starting at Fiffner Park in Stevens Point, will be the Stevens Point Pride Day Parade. So maybe we'll see you there. Thanks.
Okay, any other announcements and/or requests? Okay, I will take the infamous motion. And we have Supervisor Butke with the motion and Supervisor Langenhan with the second. Any discussion on the motion to adjourn? Seeing none, all those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, all contributing members of the community who brought forward their comments.